In this video, we've got 13 tips to make your team's retrospectives better. These tricks will help things run smoother so you can concentrate on what really matters. Let's get straight to it. The first and maybe the most obvious one is to be well prepared. Preparing properly will allow you to focus on the coming session and get started as soon as everyone is ready. Start out by getting an idea of what you want to achieve with the coming retrospective. Create the retrospective with the categories of your choice. And send out the invitations beforehand so people can join when they are ready. Making introductions to the coming session. Share the theme you have thought of with your team. Go through the categories that you're going to use for gaining insight and say something about what we want to achieve with this retrospective. Giving everyone an introduction will allow them to start getting into the correct mindset and thinking of relevant feedback to give. If you have recurring retrospectives, start by going through actions from previous sessions. This will show everyone that what we are discussing is being followed up on, as well as show the team the value of having these sessions. Ask everyone to remove their phones and laptops during discussions. This will allow everyone to focus on what is being said or discussed, and whoever is speaking will feel more heard and that their input matters. Additionally, this can increase the psychological safety, making it easier for each individual to speak their mind. After everyone is done writing notes, let each person go through and give a short explanation of their notes before moving on to the next person. Doing this creates a common understanding of the content and context of each note. Group your notes together. If you have a lot of notes, you will rarely have time to discuss everything. Grouping notes together, which is on the same theme or touching on the same topics, will make it easier for everyone to see what's most important to them, and it can also make the voting part of the session easier. Use voting. Voting facilitates a democratic process, which allows the team to decide between themselves on what they deem most important to them to discuss. You can also use it to go back in time to see what has been the most important topics in previous sessions and over time. Another benefit to using voting is that it forces everyone to think carefully about what is most important to them based on everything that has been brought up. Only discuss the highest prioritized items through voting. This will save you time in limiting the sheer amount of different discussions you will be having. It can be helpful to set a threshold for minimum amount of votes needed for a note or group to be discussed, and you should always start with the highest voted item. Support the team in their discussions. If you notice that the discussions are going off track or they are starting to discuss another note, you should remind them of the fact and get them back on topic. Another thing to be aware of is that a group of people will often have some that participate less than others. If you notice this happening in your group, you can address them directly by asking if they have any thoughts on the topic. Doing this allows them to share their thoughts if they have any, and allows you to gather everyone's perspective. Make sure to wrap up discussions properly. When in the discussion phase, make sure that you finish each note before moving on to a new one. After some time has passed on a certain topic, stop the discussions, summarize, gather some suggestions, and agree on actions to take going forward. Then you can create the actions, and finally, decide who should have the responsibility for making sure that we follow through. Now you are ready to move on to the next note. Timebox both the session in itself as well as the activities. Let's say that we have invited to a 1-hour retro. We would set aside 20 minutes for introductions and notes, 35 minutes for discussions, and 5 minutes for the wrap-up. We will spend 2 minutes on doing the introductions. For creating notes, we would have 5 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes to let everyone explain their notes. Grouping, 2 minutes. And 2 minutes for voting. As a side note, you can ask everyone if they need more time when creating notes and when voting. If they need more time, add 2 more minutes, but plan for this extra time when timeboxing. For the discussion phase, we plan with 5 to 10 minutes per note or group. Adjust as needed depending on the topics and how many notes you have. And finally, we have 5 minutes at the end for wrapping up the session. And our final tip for improving the flow of your retrospectives for this time would be to wrap everything up in a structured way at the end. Stop the discussions and go through each action to point out to the team what they have agreed. Ask everyone for feedback on the session, chosen theme and categories so that you can improve your retrospectives in the future. Okay, let's summarize what we have talked about. Be well prepared in advance. Introduce the session so that everyone starts getting into the correct mindset. Follow up actions from previous retrospectives. Remove laptops and phones to focus on the discussions. Allow everyone to share the context behind their notes. Use grouping to make voting and discussions easier. Use voting to allow the team to decide what is most important to them. Only discuss the notes or groups with the most amounts of votes. Help and support the team in the discussions to keep them on track and to get everyone's thoughts. Wrap up each discussion and agree on actions to take going forward. We have also talked about how you can use timeboxing to stay more efficient. And finally, wrapping up at the end by going through what has been agreed as well as getting feedback on the session so that you also can improve. I hope you have found some inspiration and that you will be trying out some of these tips to improve your sessions. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts you think can help others and check out our other videos.